Welcome to another edition of Banter by the Blender. This episode is about probiotics and in particular, water kefir. It is brought to you by Fiber. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how to make water kefir and why it's so good. You could say I'm a man of culture, because what's within this drink is an entire culture of bacteria. Hundreds of thousands of trillions of tiny little beings, all consuming the sugar from this amazing drink. And as a result, it releases some chemicals and it builds up pressure so that when it comes time to drink, it becomes fizzy. This one's been sitting for about a day and a half, but there's a lot of sugar in here. And I put some grapes in here, and I'm going to open it. Okay, ready? Wow. So you can see that there's a lot of gas coming out. It smells pretty good. It looks really fizzy. Let me just pour some of it into this cup to try it. Super fizzy. One way to slow down the reaction once it gets this fizzy is to keep it cold. So I did have it in the fridge overnight to kind of slow it down, because this is extra fizzy. But there was a lot of sugar and a lot of fiber in this one, so it's a little bit expected. Now let's see how it tastes. It's pretty good. I'm also eating I put some raisins in there, so I'm chewing on those a little bit. Sometimes I filter them out, but it's great. And the amount of juice that I put in here is pretty small, like maybe a third or a fourth. The rest is sugar water that's been left in the water kefir grains for a little while to do the first fermentation. And you can see that's happening here. This will eventually be put into some fruit juice and then made into a drink. So this one's just starting. I did put, it's these grains at the bottom that are the culture that carries all the bacteria and allows you to make more of this. But I did put a date in the top. Sometimes adding something like that really helps. Adds a little extra flavor and it speeds up the whole process. But you might be wondering, why is bacteria so bad at math? Well, it's because that they divide when they multiply. And that's exactly what's happening here, people. There's so much living creatures, living bacteria in this. Kefir has around 50 different strands of bacteria, some of which is yeast, which eats the sugar, we have quite a few products that use yeast. But what's so phenomenal about this drink in particular is you can make it within 24 to 48 hours. So you can have a continual cycle where this bacteria is growing and it's being drank, and the concentration levels of this is so high that I believe it speeds up metabolism. Some of this is just from my experience. It makes me feel good overall. It makes fruit juice taste better by adding it, making it fizzy. And the amount of bacteria in here is so high because you cannot buy this at the store, because if it's alive, it needs to be eating. And if it's eating, it's taking that and turning it into other things like gases, and that makes it unstable and potentially explode. And so it's very hard to find something like this in the store. You really need to be the alchemist or know somebody who's doing it at home to get the perfect level where it still tastes very good, is really healthy, and has trillions of living bacteria to consume and be in the gut. Because you could imagine that the human body, and as well as a lot of other animals, is a compilation of so many things, phenomenon, chemical reactions, and living beings within us, cells and bacteria, especially in our gut, that we're like a city, and these are the people who live in the city. These are the beings that make everything run. And in some ways, we're like the divine consciousness that chooses what we consume, what kind of fibers we put in our body is a big part of it. Usually, lots of plant material is very good for our gut, makes it an amazingly healthy city of our bodies. And this is just another tool that we have to create a body that's very healthy and happy. So you might think to yourself, how do you communicate with bacteria? Well, you use a cell phone. Because they're the size of cells here, we're talking really tiny, and that's why you can fit so many. I mean, the numbers that are in here is just mind-boggling to think about, just how many living creatures are within us, and a healthy person has more happening in their gut than an unhealthy person. So that's it for this episode.